Good morning and welcome to 365 Days of Amazing Stories with Theo Mayer. Here we are on day 225 and I'm continuing the story of the young man from Baghdad and Lady Zubaida's Maid from 1001 Arabian Nights. Now you might remember that he had met this woman at the market and just fallen in love with her, had gotten things for her and paid for it himself, and she would take a long time to come back and bring the money, and the other merchants would sort of get upset with him that he wasn't able to pay it back. Finally, she would come, he would pay it off. All things went pretty well, and he was shy about confessing his feelings toward her. But when he met with one of her slaves, guardians, he was like, "What's wrong with you, man? She loves you more than you love her. She's been pining for you." And he lets her know that if he wants and desires her, that he's going to have to take a little risk in order to win her. Because this maid has already talked to the Lady Zubaida about this young man. And Zubaida has told her that she can't marry him unless she sees him and sees if he's handsome and if he's a good fit for her, good match. So he has to get into the palace of the Lady Zubaida without being seen. For if he's seen, if he's caught, he will lose his head. And the slave asks, "Are you willing?" And he says, "Of course, I'm willing. What else is there but love? I have no choice. My life is empty if I don't go after this. She has won my heart." So the slave tells him that he must go to the mosque that is outside the palace. And if he goes to the mosque at night, things will be revealed to him and all will fall into place. He must simply be available and play his part. So from there, he goes straight to the mosque and he does his evening prayers and he sits and waits as darkness descends. Now, just before morning, a boat arrives right down from the mosque, and many slaves get out and they deposit on the shore a number of chests. And then another boat comes and all the chests are loaded back up except one. And one man is left. And when our young man from Baghdad looks closely, he sees and recognizes the slave that has been helping him out. And he goes down and meets him. And soon, from out of the darkness comes his lady. And they sit upon the chest and talk for some time. And she has tears in her eyes. She's so moved that he has come to risk his life to be with her. Well, after some chit-chat and some sweet words and some sweet exchange through the eyes, she says, "You must get into this chest. And in this chest, we'll carry you to my lady's palace." So into the chest he goes, and the chest is locked. And in a few minutes, some other slaves come. It's loaded onto the boat with the other chests. Down the river it goes. And it lands at, the little port, the little dock below the Lady Zubaida's palace. And the men begin to unload the chests. And at the bank is sort of the head guard and the head of all the men that are working right now. And he calls out, "What have you got in those chests?" Now, I have to tell you, he'd been sleeping when all this commotion started, and he woke up not being in the best of moods. "What do you have in those chests? Bring them over here. I need to see." So all the chests were brought before him, and one by one they began to get opened up. Well, they came to the chest that the young man from Baghdad was in. And he was so in a panic, so at a loss to be present in his senses, that he ended up wetting himself. And urine began to flow out from the bottom of this chest. And this young lady, turned to the head of the guards and said, "See now, you have ruined things. For in these chests are clothing for the Lady Zubaida, and they are many-colored. And within this chest that has now been tousled and turned too much, there was a jar of Zamzam water, and it has been overturned, and it certainly will make the colors of the garments run. Don't bother us with this opening of the chests longer. We need to be on our way." The head of the guards was concerned now that he had done something wrong and made trouble, and so the chests were quickly taken in the direction of Lady Zubaida's palace. And then from out of the darkness came a voice. "Hey, where are you going there?" And then the men who were carrying the chests put them down and said, the Caliph is here." And they prostrated themselves to the Caliph, bowing down to him in respect. Well, the Caliph came over and said, "What is this, and where are these chests going?" And the lady said, "They're going to the palace of the Lady Zubaida. They are filled with garments and fabric." He said, "Bring them over here and let me see." So once again, these chests were carried over for someone to inspect, and this time it was the Caliph himself. And inside, our young man from Baghdad could hear all of this going on. Of course, he's like frightened out of his wits, because if he's found out, he'll lose his life. And one by one, they're opened, and the Caliph looks at the contents of each one. He wants to make sure his wife is safe. Makes sense. After he's looked over one, the next one is open, and the next one, and the next one. And finally, it's down to the last chest where our young man from Baghdad is hiding. And the lady addresses the Caliph and says, Please, Your Highness, do not open this chest. Only open it in the presence of the Lady Zubaida herself, because within it is something that is most precious to her, and she wishes no one to see it. The Caliph agreed. And so the chests were then taken, all of them, up to the palace of the Lady Zubaida. And very quickly, once they had been deposited, and the young man from Baghdad, his chest was the first one to be deposited. Once his was deposited, the lady came up. She unlocked the lock. She said, Quickly now, get up and descend the stairway. And so he did. He stood up, hopped up, and ran up the stairway and into a room that she had designated to him, directed him toward. He went. The chest was locked, and no sooner had it been locked when the Caliph and many of his guards entered, and he sat down upon the very chest that our young man from Baghdad had been sitting in. We'll stop the story there, as Scheherazade did. Find out what happens next.